Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. So in the last video that I put out, I talked extensively about not only the cultural origins of the Japanese yokai known as Tengu, but also how they've impacted and affected the popular media landscape between not just Japan, but also the United States for the last 30 years, and yeah, there was a lot to talk about there. But towards the end of the video, I talked about visiting one of the Tokyo homes of Tengu, known as Mount Takao, or Takao-san, and gave you guys just a little bit of a glimpse of what that experience was like. Well, today everyone, I want to give you that full experience because Mount Takao isn't just about Tengu. It's also about some of the most ascetic religions that Japan has ever seen, such as Shingon Buddhism and Shugendo, both of which we talked about in that last video. So I wanted to not only expand a whole lot on all of this Tengu lore that I've been dropping, but also give you guys a real world example. But before I get started, I do have to say one thing. My experience that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is not the be-all end-all when it comes to visiting Mount Takao. If you guys plan on taking a trip to Tokyo, I would highly suggest you guys make a day trip to Takao-san because it's an amazing experience that you have to see for yourself to really appreciate it. What I'm trying to do with this video is to help you guys understand some of the more mysterious and esoteric aspects of what you're going to be experiencing when you do go up this mountain. And I just hope that you guys can appreciate it a little bit more if you do get that chance. But before we can talk about actually going up the mountain, I gotta tell you guys how to get to it. So, you're going to be looking for the train station known as Takao-san Guchi. Now, I know that's a mouthful and it does make a whole lot of sense, but don't worry because there are English-friendly signs all over the place, whether they be written down or electronic. So it's really convenient, really easy, you're not gonna get lost. As far as how long it takes to get there, Aki and I, we typically stay in the Edogawa area of Tokyo, so that took us about maybe an hour and a half. So really, depending on where you are, it could be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, give or take. But either way, you're going to be looking for the Keio-Takao line, so just keep an eye out for that. So once you get out of the station, you actually need to ask yourself, how in the world are you going to get up Mount Takao? Because all the good stuff's at the top, and you got one of three ways that you can do it. You can either, one, just straight up hike, which I definitely would not suggest doing. I mean, Aki and I and Tomo and Hutch went in the middle of August, which is a god-awful time in Japan. It's always hot, it's humid, there's the risk of heat stroke, so I would say unless it's either spring or fall and you really want to test your mettle, don't hike it. The other thing you could do is take an exposed chairlift, and I was the only one that really wanted to do that because I've had prior experiences going up mountains in exposed chairlifts with no seatbelts. I lived near a mountain called Mount Gozaisho back in Mie when I was still working abroad, so that was out. So the only other thing, and it's pretty much what I would suggest at this point, is to take the cable car at Kiyotaki Station. Now, a couple things. It's easy enough to get your tickets and actually get to the cable car, but once you're in the cable car, there are a couple of things I gotta warn you guys about. For one, if you're lucky enough to get a seat, the seats are tiny. Even by Japan standards, these seats are really small. Like, I've got a picture where my knees are literally pushing against the seat adjacent to me, and so are Aki's, and neither of us are really thin, mind, but I mean, if you're a dude bigger than me, you're not going to be able to sit down, and that's kind of a liability because it's even more dangerous to stand up. Because this cable car features the steepest incline in the entirety of Japan when it comes to their cable cars, 31 degrees. Like, even local people were like falling down and such, so you just gotta be really careful. But I would say it's worth it because when you're going up, you've got just this fantastic view, up or down. You got a fantastic view of all the nature around you. Granted, I saw too many giant spiders when I was going up and down, but there is such an opportunity to see some amazing things like wild boars or other animals or deer or something like that. So, I don't know, I think it's really worth it. So you get out of the station and what's the first thing that hits you? It's this amazing view. Now, granted, ours was kind of limited because, well, it is August and there was a whole bunch of rain that day, but I would say that we actually lucked out and came at just the right time despite it being so hot and humid because the forests of the mountains were wreathed in this cloudy mist. There was this light breeze that felt so surreal because it's like, oh man, maybe a Tengu was blowing his haucho our way. Like, it's dumb, but like, it felt really magical, and these pictures that I have do not do it justice at all. So you actually have 6 trails to choose from when it comes to going up Takao-san, and I would suggest taking the number 1 trail, which most people do, because you're going to run into the most cool stuff. And the first thing that you're going to run into is the monkey park, which felt really kind of out of place, but I'll tell you what, they claim to have 67 different monkeys to entertain guests, and I guess it could be cute to see, but boy, walking past it 10 feet away, you could smell how rank it was. So if you really want to see some macaques, then go for it, but if you really don't care, do not go. It just smelled horrible. The next thing you're gonna see is the Tako Sugi octopus tree, and you can probably already guess why it's called that. It's just, the roots are just gnarled and long and spindly and really do look like tentacles, and it really is kind of freaky to see. But I will say, there is this tiny little cute statue called開運ひっぱりだこ. And basically, if you rub the head of this thing, it'll bring you good luck. And there's a lot of things to rub to get good luck on this trip. So don't think that that's too weird. But the real adventure starts at the Takao-san Yakoin Joshinmon of the Purification Gate, where you're going to be walking down this pathway with all these beautiful red lanterns to the side. I kind of wish that we had gone at night because it really just looked like it would have looked gorgeous. But not too far into that, you're going to come into a split in the path. You're going to have on the left side the Otokozaka and on the right side the Onazaka, basically the male and the female pathway. Now, to the left, the Otokozaka, there's 108 steps for the men. It's a really, really hard climb. And for the women's side, it's kind of this gentle winding up. And I know that kind of sounds sexist, but here's the thing. The 108 steps represent the 108 worldly passions and desires in Buddhism, and each step that you take removes one of those vices. Now, granted, we took the Onazaka because I got bad knees, Aki's got a bad back, there was no way we were gonna make that, and there were plenty more stairs waiting for us, as you will soon see. Now, once you get past all that, you see what look like panels of wood with names on them, just row after row. Like, I gotta show you in this video how long these are. This is tons of names going down. And apparently what this is that these are the names of the people that either volunteer or have donated to contributions to keep basically everything functioning when it comes to the park in Takao-san. So it really is just amazing at how long and how far this goes, because originally I thought this was like a Buddhist thing. But no, there's literally just this many people who are devoting their time and money to make sure that people can enjoy this place. Now, along the way, you're gonna find tiny little, well, not tiny, but they're medium-sized statues that have a ball similar to the octopus statue, but there's also a wheel on it, and there's a kanji at every wheel. And what this is that each kanji is a body part, and we'll get more into this later. It's definitely a super Buddhist thing, but you basically roll the wheel to find the body part you want and then kind of rub the ball on top in order to gain healing for that particular body part. But not too far into that, we run into the Jinbendo Shrine. Now, this has a bit of a story because Jinben Daibo Satsu is also known as En-no Gyoja, who is the father of Shugendo. This dude is amazing. So he was banished by the court in 699, but all these folk tales in the Nihon Ryouiki, or ghostly strange records of Japan, sort of set to a collection in the 1800s AD, give or take. It basically told stories about after he was kicked out of the imperial court, he went on to basically become Superman. Like, he gained all these supernatural powers and exploits by just living and dwelling and understanding nature, the cosmos, existence, everything. And that's by and large what Shugendo focuses on, gaining power and control and wisdom through all these esoteric practices that En-no Gyoja himself did. Now, what kind of threw me off is that I was expecting to see the name En-no Gyoja in the title. I mean, I've seen statues of this guy in other places before, in places like Iga. They called him En-no Gyoja. But apparently, this particular spot is special because En-no Gyoja was given the title Jinben Daibo Satsu in 1799, celebrating his 1000th year in death. So, yeah, it's just kind of confusing. So, don't let that confuse you. This shrine, super important. Enshrines the very creator of Shugendo. Now, about this time, you're either going to be tired, hungry, thirsty, or all of the above, and you actually kind of luck out because there's this tiny little restaurant called Golgensha, and this place is so super cute. They specialize in tea, mifuku dango, and ramen, and something that I saw that just absolutely tickled me is that there was a Yokai Watch Whisper ice cream cone. Sorry, that's just a me thing. But the coolest thing that I saw in terms of food that was being offered was what was called Tengu ramen. They had 3 different kinds. I think they had regular, white, and red, which was so crazy. And I'm not sure about this long particular thing that you see right here, but I think it's a mix of yam and rice. Definitely a vegetable of sort, but it's really cute because it's supposed to symbolize the nose of the Dai Tengu. Anyway, so you're going up and up and up and up, and then on the right side, you see this. This is the Shi-Tenomon Gate, which is basically the Sanmon or mountain gate of Takao-san Yakuin Temple. Now, it's kind of peculiar because when you go into typical Buddhist temples, you have the gate, which is guarded by Agyo and Ungyo, which are basically Buddhist representations of the beginning and the end. I talked way more about it in an old Pokemon video that you can catch up here. But anyway, what's unique about this particular gateway is that it's actually protected by 4 different Buddhist deities, which I guess makes sense because Shi-Tenomon literally means 4 heavenly kings' gates, so I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Now, once you get through that gate, there's one thing you gotta take special attention to, and that is a particular statue on the right once you go through. This is a statue of Buddhist priest Shugen Daitoku. Now, this is kind of getting into the backstory of how Mount Takao and its temple and everything kind of came into being. See, in the very beginning, Takao-san Yakuin Temple was actually created by this guy, Ryoiki, who is said to have established Yakuin in 744. But in the 14th century, it was refurbished and recreated by this guy, Shugen Daitoku, a priest from Mount Daigo in Kyoto who brought the temple closer to Shugendo by order and vision of Izuna Daigongen. And don't worry, we got a lot to say about him. And then you enter what I can only really call the precinct. It's basically just kind of a wide ground area before you get to the main hall of the temple. And there's all different kinds of things here. Like, over here, you've got the Hachidai Ryodo, and I don't know the details about it, but what it said is that if you wash money within the water that is here, that money will eventually double over time. So, yeah, and that's not the first time I've heard that before either. But then you've also got this, Kurikara Ryu. Now, Kurikara Ryu actually enshrines Kobo Daishi, civil servant, poet, artist, scholar, and founder of esoteric Shingon Buddhism. So yeah, kind of a big deal. And after that is one of the favorite things that I did. I don't have a lot of details on it, but basically, you walk through this hole, kind of making your way through, and there's a whole lot of places, whole lot of shrines, whole lot of temples where you go through small openings and you come out the other side and you're more lucky. But what you do is that once you get through this hole, you pick up this big metal staff and you ring the rings of this shakujo staff. Now, for those of you that missed the last video, a shakujo staff and its many rings were used by Yamabushi as well as Buddhist monks to basically make sound as they were walking, and if there was anyone that needed last rites or other help from the Buddhist monk, so to speak, that was the way to get people's attention. It also worked as a pretty decent weapon to basically just fend off against bandits and animals and other things. But yeah, you take this, you just take this big old rod and you just kind of smack the sides of the shakujo staff rings, and it apparently brings luck. Also in this area is the Juyosho, basically the place where you can buy omamori charms and other amulets and all different kinds of souvenirs that are said to bring luck in different kinds of ways. For me personally, I had to get this omamori charm. So it has the Kotengu, oh camera focus for me here. It's the Kotengu up front and then the Dai Tengu in the back. And then there was this. I don't know if you could see it very well, but they're tiny little Geta. And then finally, I had to get 2 more charms of the 2 Tengu themselves, the Kotengu and the Dai Tengu. Just... And finally, one of the coolest things that you can do, which is also probably one of the most esoteric, is there's this giant wheel that you kind of roll and roll. And there's a description, it's all in Japanese about what it is that you're supposed to do. But I'll kind of explain it. So, you grab the wheel and you roll it, you roll it, you roll it, and you do a very specific chant. Sange Sange Rokon Shoujo. Alright? Now, I know that sounds like a mouthful, but let me explain what all that means. Sange came from the ancient sutra meaning 3 evil passions. These are ego, anger, and foolishness. And this chant in particular makes you aware of those particular passions. Rokon refers to the 6 senses of sight, hearing, olfaction, taste, tactile sense, and consciousness. and shoujo is to purify. So the prayer itself is basically like saying, let me have the right sense so I can reach nirvana. You're basically pushing out all of these negative desires, these 3 negative desires, and honing in on your 6 senses to keep them pure as well. And now we get to the main stage, the Yakuin Dai Hondo, which is basically the center building of all of the happenings. And all over the place, you see Dai Tengu and Ko Tengu, or Karasu Tengu, just all over. There are a couple of statues out to the side. There are a couple of giant, like, I hesitate to call them masks because no one would wear them. These huge faces of the Dai Tengu and the Ko Tengu. And the coolest thing of all is that when me, Aki, Tomo, and Hutch were there, we actually heard the Yamabushi in there chanting. We couldn't record it, you know, for obvious reasons, but it sounded so cool. It wasn't like deep throat chanting, but it was definitely harmonized, and it was so freaking beautiful. Now, the interesting thing is that, like I said before, this particular Buddhist temple was founded by one particular person and then refurbished by another. So originally, this particular hall was dedicated to the medicine Buma, Yakushi. But now the worship pretty much focuses around a composite Buddhist Shinto deity, Izuna Daigongen. And again, we'll get to more about him in a minute, but if you want to know more, we did talk extensively about this guy in the last video on Tengu. So outside of the Daihondo, there are a couple of auxiliary things to check out as well. And unfortunately, in order to see these things and get to the top of the mountain, you gotta go up even more stairs. It's the one thing that I really hate about Japan, so many stairs, and I got 2 bad knees. But it is totally worth it because, God, let me just get into it. So at the very, very top of the stairs is the Go Honsha, the main shrine, known as Yakuin Izuna Gongendo. And you will see Tengu to the left of it, to the right of it, but it is a beautifully, beautifully crafted and painted sort of enshrined area of Izuna Daigongen. But the one thing that kind of throws people off is that you're going into this area with a big torii gate, and torii gates, you don't see those at Buddhist temples because that's Shinto, not Buddhism. So you're kind of thinking to yourself, is this actually a Buddhist place or a Shinto place? Well, Takao harmonizes Shinto and Buddhism together, so either kind of worship is welcome. Whether the traditional Shinto way of praying to Izuna Daigongen or the Buddhist way, either way it's fine. Which, I don't know, I think that's kind of nice. Over a little bit to the left, just really quick, is this little auxiliary shrine called the Tengu Sha, or Tengu Shrine. And the cool thing about this is that you see these geta all over the place, these single-toothed geta sandals, essentially. And these are the kind of sandals that you see Tengu wearing all the time, whether it be in popular media or in, you know, traditional art. And I just think it's kind of cute, because there's these big ones that are, like, bigger than anyone's foot could hold, or these much smaller ones. And I believe these are offerings to the Tengu of Mount Takao, which, I don't know, I just think that's really cool. Now, just to the right of the Tengu Sha is the Fukutoku Inari Shrine with tons and tons of Inari foxes just all over the place. Not only the stone statues with the red bibs on them, but also within the shrine itself are just rows and rows of beautiful white Inari foxes. And you're probably wondering at this point, are we talking about kitsune when we refer to Inari foxes? And the answer is yes, these are the same yokai sort of kitsune you're thinking of, but don't worry, these guys are on the level because they work for a very special kami known as Inari Okami. Now, Inari Okami used to be the god of agriculture and rice, which back in the day for Japan was a big deal because that was their unit of currency, the koku. But these days, he's known as the god of economic success, which makes him no less popular. In fact, 1 in 3 of all Shinto shrines are devoted to Inari Okami. That means out of the 80,000 Shinto shrines that exist in Japan, 30,000 of them are devoted to Inari Okami. Now we get past all that, and guess what? More stairs. In fact, let me give you guys a little clip of how exhausted I was just getting to this point.
Alright, almost there, guys. Almost to the very top of Mount Tako.
But I tell you what, guys, I'm really happy that I did tough it out and get to the very top, because at the very top of Takao-san is the Takao-san Fudo-do, and this is where Fudo Myo-o is enshrined. Now, Fudo Myo-o is one of the most centralized figures in the worship of Shugendo for Yamabushi. His very name means Immovable Wisdom King, and is the center of the 5 Kings of Wisdom alongside Gozanze, Gundari, Daitoku, and Kongyosha. Though he himself looks absolutely terrifying, Fudomyo transforms anger into kindness and liberates his followers from suffering through self-control. And Izuna Daigonkin, the figure in which all of Takao-san is devoted to, is actually a fusion of Fudomyo and Tengu Saburo, a wise and just Tengu who saved an entire town from famine, but more info on him on the last video. But finally, freaking finally, we get to the top, and yeah, again, let me just show you how exhausted I was getting there.
Well guys, we made it. It was a long hike, and I'm ready to puke. But we made it to the top of Mount Takao. Learned a whole lot too.
But there it was, at the very top of the mountain was the Senginsha, the highest point of the entire temple. And from here, I was actually able to see something really amazing. There was a Yamabushi gathering area, possibly used for meditation or lecture. Not really sure, but it really was unique in its design, and though I wasn't sure if you could go in or not, man, I was really tempted. So to wrap up this video, there are just a few things about the Takao-san Tengu that I really wanted to talk about that I wasn't able to mention last video. So for those of you that may have missed the last video, on Mount Takao there are two long-nosed bird-like creatures known as the Ko Tengu and the Dai Tengu, and they're believed to be servants of the native god Izuna Daigonkin, who we just got done talking about, using their supernatural power to bring good fortune and ward off evil. Now here's something that I didn't know that I wish I could have put in that last video. One of the things that I found out is that Tengu were actually named based on the mountains in which they're in. So in this case, the Tengu of Takao-san are called Naigubu. Huh, who knew? And speaking of names, the two Tengu that are flanked by Izuna Daigonkin actually have names as well. The Ko Tengu or Karasu Tengu is known as Shishie Doji, and the Dai Tengu is known as Abarachi Doji. Now some of you may be wondering why Tengu were specifically thought of to be at this particular mountain. Now there's a theory going around, I don't know if it's true, but one of the things that I did notice about Takao-san is the advertisements for flying squirrels, tons of flying squirrels. I never saw one at all, but there's this idea going around that in twilight or at nighttime, when people see all of these mammalian figures flying through the air, they may have been thinking that, oh, those are Tengu. I don't know if that's true or not, but it is an interesting theory. Lastly, and I wish I would have mentioned this at the very beginning of the video talking about the octopus cedar trees, but there's actually a really cute story dealing with these Tengu and these trees. So one day, the Tengu of Takao were working to build a path going to the top of the mountain when they came across this big giant cedar tree with roots that were blocking its pathway. And the Tengu were going in and trying to rip out the roots and get them out of the way, but to no avail. But the very next day, the roots were curled up like legs and tentacles of an octopus, and it seems that the trees decided to behave and pulled away its roots not to interfere with the work of the Tengu. Since then, the octopus cedar has been worshipped by people who regard it as a symbol of opening up a pathway not only to good fortune, but also to nirvana. But this is only the beginning when it comes to Tengu folklore, and of only one location. Tengu are found all over Japan, and each one has their own unique story to tell, so be sure to check out that other video if you haven't seen it yet. But either way everyone, thanks for watching. If you love Japanese history and culture half as much as I do, be sure to check out the rest of the channel, or come chill with us live at twitch.tv/Gaijin Goombah where we break down culture and gaming live. And you better believe when Neo 2 drops next month, I'm gonna have a lot to analyze. But if you'd like to help make our videos the very best that they can be, consider swinging by our Patreon where you can help us decide new episodes. But until next time everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.